Welcome into the M2M podcast. I'm Paul Yeager at the Iowa State Fair. Secretary of Agriculture Mike Naig is here for our annual trip around the fair, and we're going to try to make it as uneventful as possible with the cart. We'll see what we can find out. There's a few things going on content-wise. Let's start first, if we could, with news things. Saturday, when you were here, the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, was here, and I know that you always get just a couple of moments before we see things. What was your lead pitch for Iowa to the U.S.?
Well, first of all, we were thrilled that Brooke Rollins came to the state fair, and of course, she's quite competitive. We Governor Naig had invited her to come in and participate in the Governor's Charity Steer Show, which was wonderful, and she did, and that was great. But of course, had a chance to visit with her, and you know, top line message for the secretary, and that's the thing I'm hearing about from farmers as I'm working the fairgrounds here, is it's all about profitability, and you know, call it $5 corn, but really what we're talking about is we have got a pinch. Prices aren't where we need them to be, and we got input prices that are coming in high again, and so we have got to be thinking about that, and really just trying to drive home the idea that, so that means we need to unleash markets both here and around the world. So we made it, you know, obviously making the pitch for expanded trade, biofuels, E15, SAF, and all of the above. We don't want to enter an era where we're relying on payments from the government to make things work. So that was the main point that we drove home. In addition to bragging about some really good Iowa cattle.
And she was saying that you were going to finish third.
Yes.
And we know that neither one of you, the governor or the secretary, came in first, second, or third.
So I guess in theory, because they don't place the top five, we were all three in the top five. In one sense, you could say we tied.
Okay.
I still think that I probably placed higher than them, just given the quality of the steer that I was showing. But see, that allows us all to have our own, our ability to save face if you want to.
That is important. When you're here at the fair, we'll get to all the people and all the things.
How you doing?
Farmers are stopping me.
Yeah.
I know farmers are stopping
me
you.
right now.
It's always about price.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. If I would have had a chance to ask a question on Saturday, it was going to be, give me some details about China, because we have people that say frameworks are nice, the markets think that's great, we know that there needs to be a deal, but we are to the point now, the farmers are telling me that we need details. Are you closer to hearing details are coming? Because we can't have kind of sort of much longer.
Well, we just wrapped up. I spent the afternoon with Luke Lindbergh, who's the newly confirmed USDA Undersecretary for Trade. He's 5 days on the job. He did a roundtable with farmers. It wouldn't surprise you that several of the farmers in the room are saying, what about details? You know, It's one thing to put frameworks together, and then it's another to actually, and it's even another thing to have an agreement in detail. Then you actually have to go execute trade, and there's lots of non-tariff things that happen. And so that is really where you really have to be focusing on, go make new agreements, then execute on those agreements, and then enforce those agreements, really. And so it's all of those things all at once. We don't have a lot of detail yet on some of these, but I think directionally we're headed to the right place. When you've got, this was also a way to think about this. Typically it seems like we're trying to get somebody's attention when we're trying to advocate for trade or this program or that. And you can't get higher than the President of the United States when it comes to trying to appeal to the highest authority within government to get something going. The President is talking about and tweeting about trade and talking about ag products and soybean to China. So, I mean, you've got the highest levels of government, cabinet level members negotiating, the president himself negotiating on these things. And so at that level, frameworks, hey, I'll take them. Then you have to bring the detail into focus. And that's where, frankly, again, you just got an undersecretary confirmed just a few days ago. We need the ag negotiator is still nominated but not confirmed. And they're negotiating all over the place. So I do think this is going to continue to take some time. But we also stressed both to the secretary and to the undersecretary that there's a real urgency to this profitability and price piece, and trade is one component of that. But we got to keep the wheels moving.
We've talked China numerous times over the years, and what is fair and what is right. The president, before we visited, had tweeted about quadruple. Well, that's more soybeans than we produce right now and have a home. We just need to fulfill what was dealt 6 years ago.
If we could just have phase 1 and be working on phase 2.
Yeah.
Well, the president sort of does these things to get the attention, right? And say, hey, you ought to pay. And look, the fact is, again, he's sending a signal to the Chinese. You asked specifically, did we get some insight into that? And no, other than to know, I mean, we asked specifically, and other than to say that, again, at the highest levels, cabinet level, you're seeing negotiations. India, of course, is another question mark right now.
Yeah.
We think that that's a huge potential. Largest country in the world by population. They have a significant productivity gap. They have lots of needs. And yet, trade deals are hard to come by. But we are again told that the negotiations are ongoing.
Members of the Iowa delegation have gone to India, but India's always kind of been that hard to reach for anybody.
It's out there.
They're always kind of just keeping you at arm's length, and I get that.
Famously protectionist. I mean, non-GM, they restrict GMO access, those types of things, and yet they have a way of getting the things they need, and I think that we got to get positioned to be ready for that opportunity.
I'm taking you around the barns because I know you're always tempted to jump out and start hopping into the ring or hopping into to show these cattle and these farmers these producers with these cattle right now and the prices that they are enjoying.
Yeah.
They look good from a new chart, from a chart perspective, but they are hard to buy those new round of feeders.
Hard to finance. Yep.
Hard to find the bank that wants to write that check because it's a steep check. Yes, it's good for the livestock producer right now, but it's also pretty soon that consumer is going to maybe back away. Where's that balancing act for you in talking to people this week?
Good question, right? I mean, so wouldn't you argue that perhaps we would have thought that demand destruction would have already occurred at some of the prices that we're seeing? I mean, conventional wisdom would tell you that we should be seeing a lessening demand for beef at the consumer level, and we're not. So, of course, it's a balance, and you don't want to push that too far. No, we don't. The demand destruction's bad on all the way around, and yet the signals continue to be sent. I always use this as an example. If I'm talking to a non-ag group, and I say one of the bright spots in ag is that beef industry from a price standpoint, but then you say, well, why aren't we seeing a massive expansion? All the signals should be telling you that you should see. Well, we still have the smallest cattle or cow herd in this country since the 1950s, and that's not changing dramatically, and what it tells you is it's that exact thing. It's hard to finance that investment. It's hard to make that much of investment, bite off that big a chunk, and drought out west and all those challenges really contribute to us being kind of going sideways here.
But in a way, and this is the weird thing about it, it's this magic of supply and demand. That if we don't have this massive supply, there is going to be a strong demand, and like the corn farmer right now, what are they going to maybe do? They might try to overproduce through the problem. It's not intentional, is it, on the beef industry, do you think?
I don't think so.
Yeah. That's why it's like, that's what kids, that's what the finance people will ask me. And I don't know. Hog producers, what are they talking about right now?
Pork producers finally see some light. And part of it, you've got lower feed costs. But I mean, you were talking about historical. I always say when you use the words historical and unprecedented to describe what you're going through, oh boy, have you got troubles. And they really, many of them had a very deep hole that was dug for them, and they are climbing their way out of that. But generally, I'm hearing some really positive things out of the pork industry. Health is a major challenge, PRRS and those types of things. I mean, we've got headwinds when it comes from a market standpoint. Prop 12 is a real issue. And now we're going to enter a football game here.
We are. This is a new one. I don't think. Can you go over? Can you
go over?
Let's see over. And he caught it.
Did he catch it?
Yeah, he caught it. He caught it. It's good.
Catch.
Nice work. Now let's see if he can. You think he could thread it between us? That would be always something new here.
There's always
we
something
have to be looking.
Pork, obviously, and very export dependent. And then Prop 12. Those are things that we view as headwinds potentially for this industry that's finally seeing some bright spot. So I'd say disease, the threat of foreign animal disease, and then market access domestically and internationally. Those would be some headwinds that we see coming. But I'm generally hearing some pretty good things from our swine sector.
Back to the USDA secretary, talked about how a lot of things were put into the one bill, the big bill, that were farm bill related. What are you hearing? What are you wanting to see? New farm bill? Or is that going to be enough that was given to you a month ago?
Not enough. Must see a completion, if you will. Call it a skinny farm bill. call it a closeout, I don't know, but there has to be some policy pieces that are put into another bill. And we know that certainly G.T. Thompson on the House side, they're working on getting that language put together in the Senate side. So I think as we get into fall, we really do need to see a piece of policy move. Now, I also, we need to then zoom out and say, and yes, the Big Beautiful Bill did have significant impact, from a tax standpoint, but also increasing reference prices and those types of things brought a lot of certainty. But it didn't do all of it because it couldn't. That kind of vehicle can't. We have got to get back to normal order on farm bills, which is to say we got a 5-year farm bill that's written by the House and the Senate Agriculture Committees. And so this had to happen for a whole series or set of reasons. Now we've got to make sure that, and by the way, it always starts sooner than you think. The next 5-year cycle really is coming at us just here in a couple of years.
Well, I would say we've never even answered the last 5-year cycle.
Technically, no, right?
No,
we're still in an
we've
extension.
extended the thing. Traditionally, farm bills have been some of the most bipartisan parts of legislation. The big hang-up has been on food assistance on one side, and we're not hearing much on the conservation side and the commodity title. I mean, there are lots of titles. How are we going to get people back together? And do we need to keep the bill together and separate food and everything else?
I mean, historically, what the reason for that, yes, it's 85% of what's authorized in a farm bill is supplemental nutrition, but the whole point is that you've got congressional districts that don't have one scrap of farm ground in it. And you say, well, so you're trying to, how do you go argue for crop insurance to somebody that represents, Manhattan or Los Angeles County? But the point is they should care, because that all leads to food security and national security and economic security. But I think when you put that all in the context of food and farm bill, that's how you get a bipartisan bill across the line. And don't forget, too, they are bipartisan. They have to be. They should be. But the breakdown, if you will, or some of the controversy that can occur is actually regional. It's sugar beets versus cotton versus wheat versus corn versus... And
that's always something that we have watched over the years of who's in charge. It means which commodity might have a little more strength.
And we're very fortunate in Iowa and in the Midwest. I mean, you got John Thune, you've got Klobuchar and Craig, and you've got our whole delegation, 2/3 of which is on their agriculture committees. Nunn and Feenstra, Ernst and Grassley. I mean, we're really well positioned. We just need to make sure that there's a vehicle to move.
Somewhere to find. Controversy. Let's stick one more in here in this discussion. Water has been a big topic in central Iowa. When the largest population has restrictions, people get attention. There's studies put out there. There's comments out there. There's a group of people. This audience at the fair, Secretary, is your prime opportunity, I'm guessing, to have a conversation. What are you talking about?
Look, we're, and here and anywhere else, we're trying to talk about the fact that, and look, first of all, I want to say at the outset, we appreciate our partnerships with Polk County. We've got partnerships with Des Moines. We've done projects together with Des Moines Waterworks, and we want to continue that. And there is just no reason for us to try to divide here. The fact is, we've got one of the fastest growing metropolitan areas in the Midwest, the fastest, Des Moines metropolitan area, and we want a thriving, strong capital city, growing residential sector, growing industry, data centers, recreational opportunities, you name it. This community, this city, largely uses surface water as the source water for your drinking water, which means you're going to get a lot of variability. That's a fact.
Yes.
Which means you're going to have treatment capacity for all kinds of things that come with river water. And here's the other fact. We haven't seen this kind of nitrate spike over the last few years. Why is that? It's weather-driven, largely, in what we're seeing. We had dry years. We don't move as much. We have a normal or a wet year. We move some nitrate. That is a reality of our landscape. It's not all because of what gets applied in a farm field. A lot of it is naturally occurring, or legacy nutrients that are laying in our stream beds and banks. So what we should be looking at is, and I think we are largely, there's many who want to get in and try to break that apart and want to create controversy where there doesn't need to be. We should be working and are working upstream in the watershed to try to reduce nutrient loss. One, there's an economic reason to do it for farmers. Two, it's an environmental reason to do it. There are cities upstream, stormwater upstream. All those things can be improved. And you have to also then increase the treatment capacity that you need here to survive, to support a growing metro area, and we should do both, and we should be supporting each other in both regards.
Do you get the sense, because speaking of the people, I need to show more of the people here at the fairgrounds. We're going to spin around. I know we're at our end destination, but I want to spin around and show a few more of these people because those projects are expensive.
Yes, they are.
And we're having a little bit of a pushback on government spending for some things. Are the people really interested in clean water? Do you get the sense they even care about clean water?
Oh, yes. No, I do. Look, and this is also why you need to have sustained, we've been implementing Iowa's nutrient reduction strategy now for over 12 years. We don't just wake up today and say, hey, let's get started. We've been working on soil erosion prevention and working on soil health for decades now. So, I mean, what is important here is that you have a long-term, dedicated, sustained, strategic focus. And that, again, should be on the treatment side and on our work within watersheds and working with water treatment providers, stormwater cities, all up and down the watershed. So I think that's the lesson here, is to continue that strategic long-term focus and then leverage resources. So yes, state dollars, but federal dollars and private sector dollars. We've done a really good job, I think, in this state of doing that, and it takes leadership, and it's going to take some time too to ultimately see the progress that we want to see. But look, cover crops. We've gone from almost no cover crops in the state of Iowa. 12 years on, we're at 4 million acres. We need more than that. We need to double that. We need to go beyond that. But don't tell me that's not progress. And you can go right down the line and find all kinds of ways that we've been progressing.
Where do you find more progress? Because is it the same? Are you getting new producers to participate in cover crops? Because it's easy for one to expand, but you got to get the one or two new in the county to join you, right?
So the one data point is that we actually offer, for cost share for the state of Iowa, we offer a $30 per acre cost share for first-time user of cover crops and $20 for a previous user. So we are tracking, and we know who's used the program in the past. We've got 1,000 new cover crop cost share applicants every year, and have for the last several years. And you think at some point, well, we're going to run out, right? No. But we're also working with partners to drive more awareness and more interest, and flat out just go sell conservation across the state of Iowa. So, no, we're having new people are engaging, and we're also trying to work with ag retail. We're working with Pheasants Forever, Ducks Unlimited, you name it. We've got lots of partners that are helping. So that's not just the state of Iowa that's out there talking to folks, that it's all these other partners. And something that may motivate you to invest in a practice or say yes to a practice may not be the same thing, and isn't the same thing that motivates others. And then recognizes that every city and every acre of ground is different, every farm is different, and we ought to respect that in our approach to things.
But when you walk around here, you will see someone that will have a very loud shirt about water. They might have a loud shirt about politics. They might have a loud shirt. How aggressive are you having conversations with people when you see that?
I won't. I mean, I'm not gonna go seek that person out, and everybody.
Do they seek you out?
Oh, I get. People like to tell me what they think, and I like that. Look, you know what I find? The vast majority of Iowans don't want that kind of screaming at each other.
Yeah.
They want collaboration. They want people to work hard, do what they say they're going to do, follow up, and care. And we do care, and we're working at it. And then we're trying to be very transparent in our work to say, look, go to Iowa State University's website for the nutrient reduction strategy. Look at the measurements. You can see it's updated on an ongoing basis. We're not trying to hide anything. We even talk about some of our challenges. We're having permitting issues for some of our wetlands. We try to be very open about that. But I would just encourage folks, this work isn't easy, and there's a lot of folks that are committed to it. And, we'll recognize on Wednesday of this week, and we do this every year with the governor and the DNR and the Iowa Department of Ag. It'll be about 40 families a year. So it's a pretty selective group. Mm-hmm. But they're Environmental Farm Leader Awards. And we recognize families who really have had a generational commitment to conservation, but they're also folks that are usually people that are hosting field days, and people will say, I learned about no-till from that family or that farm. And that's how you create lasting change, a culture of conservation that endures, and it's not a flash in the pan, it's not a regulatory reaction, it's not something that takes away the innovation, it's something that really becomes part of our culture, and more so, that's the kind of thing that we're trying to promote.
Okay, I've held off as long as I could. Best new fair food this year. I need you to have something controversial answered.
I won't do it.
It is hard, isn't it?
Drop the mic and walk away. Actually, funny, I have this real problem, right? Because I'm out here every day. And yet, for some reason, I still don't seem to get everything accomplished that I need to after 11 days. I like some of the traditional pieces. I did have the what was the new sandwich at pork tent with the
pork loin, coleslaw, pineapple, and then the hot chili drizzle.
All I can say is that I had that, and it was phenomenal. But I'm not. It's relatively early in the fair when we're talking here, Paul. So I think. But the one thing I'll always go on the record as saying is it's always a great day for ice cream at the Iowa State Fair, and I just had some cookies and cream right before this.
We are. Oh, and look at this. Look at this. Someone who has definitely been in agricultural programs over the years. Good to see Pam Johnson here, and I won't even say that she's here. I'm supposed to cut it out right now. She's already given me the look. But when you see, let's use it this way. We'll close on this. When you see producers who have been involved in leadership over time and they are continuing to be there and serve as mentors, what is it that you need with your young producers who are in the ring, who are trying to find a way because inputs are high, prices are low, land is not available, this is going on, this regulation? Give me some of that mentorship that a young producer can go home with.
We actually had President Brent Johnson of Iowa Farm Bureau and I did another roundtable this year with beginning farmers just a couple of days ago, and I am finding that to be one of the most important engagements of the fair anymore. And just because you do get a sense of what's on their minds, what are the challenges, and yes, land access, and actually things that may surprise if you don't know it, but childcare. Childcare is a huge issue for our farm community, our ag community, because mom and dad are both typically working. And both maybe off the farm at times. What do you do with the children is a big deal. And those things come out. But profitability, it really comes back to profitability. When you don't have profitability, then it's almost like, well, how do you talk about all these other issues? And it's challenging when there is profitability, don't get me wrong. But right now, we're in an era where it just feels like we have got to go back to talking about some basics. We need markets. We need markets domestically and internationally. And if you have those things, if there's profitability that's possible, then these other things can happen. But look, I do appreciate that. I always tell folks, sometimes ask a question and then listen. Ask somebody who farmed through the '80s what it was like, and then listen. I love to talk to bankers and say, tell me a story about the 1980s, and then just listen. You can learn a lot.
I had that conversation this morning about we're talking about interest rates, 7%. I'm like, but don't you remember? It goes, yeah, it bankrupt me.
Yeah.
The old stuff of, teens. So,
there's a lot of folks that'll say these are normal interest rates, right? What we've been experiencing of late is not, and those are it's good perspective.
Yeah. All right. That's always good to have his perspective. Mike Naig, Secretary of Iowa's Agriculture.
Hey, look, heavy equipment. We avoided that too.
We avoided it all.
It's a good day.
And only 2 interruptions, so that might be a record for us, but maybe it's because it was raining. We do what we can. Thanks for watching this M2M podcast. I'm Paul Yeager. Next episode comes your way Tuesday here on wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for watching.